If you know so much about marriage,
Yeah.
why have you never been married?
Because I didn't know how to act. This
Said
is
it in the
simple.
book.
Your fault.
It's totally my fault. Totally my fault. It's not anybody's fault but mine. I was on the road over 200 days out of the year. I'm not going to be faithful being on the road 200 days out of the year.
You can.
I know.
You can make that choice.
No, no, no.
Just because you.
I didn't say you can't. I didn't say you can't. I said me. I could not be on the road as much as I'm on the road all of those years and honor a relationship. I know how to treat a woman very well. My mother and my father.
Can you, agree with Stephen A. that it is truly much more difficult to be faithful when you are in a situation of tons of travel and just being generally very successful?
I've traveled most of my career as well. I traveled just like Stephen A. traveled. I covered the NBA for years like he did. And I've been married, as I said earlier, 30 years and never cheated on my wife. So it's very possible to do it. I'm a living witness to that. But it's all about your mentality, and it's all about the positions you put yourself in because of that mentality. I was talking to an NBA player who is a Christian, and this was during his playing career. And I asked him, I was like, man, kind of the same question. I said, yo, how do you deal with the temptation? I mean, I know women coming at you left and right. Like, how do you deal with that as a Christian? And he said, I said, is it really hard? He said, man, it's not really that hard. He's like, it's about the positions you put yourself in. He was like, yeah, if I'm going out to the strip club and to the clubs with my teammates every night, then yeah, it's going to be really hard. But if I go home to my wife, if I go out to eat, but then go back to the hotel or go home, if I put myself in different positions, then it's not going to be as hard.
Me very much. And I'm one of those guys that call it a blessing or a curse. 90% of my living relatives are women. Like St. Thomas, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, upstate, the whole bit, Florida, Carolinas. I got relatives all over the place. Most of them are female. So I've been surrounded by females all my life. And you get to know what the do's and don'ts, what the wants and don't wants are, and all of this other stuff. That's a given. And there's a level of treatment that I'm never going to go lower than. So in that regard, I'm good. But when I was on the road for 200 days out of the year, man, and this is the part that men don't reveal that much, but I will. When you get older, you grow up, and it's like you don't need it no more. You don't need it no more. So you don't chase. That's entirely different than when it's handed to you on a silver platter. And you don't have to work for it. That doesn't mean you can't say no. It certainly doesn't mean that you don't say no. What it does mean is that it's harder.
I had a homeboy, his saying was, he said, I don't chase it, but I ain't fast enough to run from it.
That was me for a long time. That was me for a long time. And so I saw cats in our industry using their per diem to pay for their women. Meals, hotels, that kind of thing. They didn't come out of their pocket. Because if it did, their wife would have noticed. And I'm like, I ain't living like that. I ain't gonna be that kind. Nah. You know what I'm saying? I'm not Gandhi and I'm not the Pope or anything like that, but I'm a God-fearing, decent man. I'm not living like that. And I've never been that guy. But it's not easy when you're younger and you're climbing and you're scratching and you're clawing and you're not settled and ain't nothing but temptation comes your way. I ward it off with ease now because
I would say what I do have trouble respecting is someone that claims to be a Christian and is living in egregious sin unrepentant.
But I'm a God-fearing, decent man.
So if you claim to be a Christian and that's you make no bones about it, but you also are like, but yeah, I'm out here smashing all types of honey. That's just, that's what I do. then that's hard. That you can't respect that, because just don't claim to be a Christian. I mean, that Jesus said, you know, be hot or be cold, but don't be lukewarm. I'm gonna spit you out of my mouth if you're lukewarm. So you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to decide you want to follow Jesus Christ. If you do decide you want to follow him and give him your life, then follow him and do your best to follow him. You might fall short. You might fall short several times, time and time again, but you're trying, you're doing your best, versus the person who says, yeah, I follow Jesus, I love the Lord, I'm a Christian, but you ain't even trying to live right. You're not even trying to follow his teachings. You're mocking him. You say he's supposed to be your Lord. A Lord is a boss, a ruler. If you say he's your Lord, but then you don't even try to follow his teachings and his commands, then you're mocking him. And that's what's hard to respect. A lot of men's identities are tied up in their sexuality.
Yep.
1000%.
In their sexual prowess, their sexual conquest, whatever it is. And if you get married, if your identity from the time you were 15 to 30 was all about macking and all about, yo, I got the honeys, man. Yo, I do this, I do that. I got all these women, whatever. If your identity is in that, even if you don't have a lot of women, but that's still what you wish you had, that's your identity. When you get married, you might really mean it on that day or even leading up to the marriage, man, I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to be faithful. But if your identity is I'm a player, my identity is tied to how many women I sleep with or how many women I can get, then that's going to really present a challenge for you in marriage, because you've lost your identity. It ain't just about, you have lost your identity. Being faithful is tough enough because we're men, we have temptation. Of course, man, I see beautiful women all the time. Right. I go to the same games, the same cities Stephen A be going to. I've gone to the NBA All-Star games, gone to parties, all this stuff. And you see beautiful women all the time. You're always going to do that. But your mentality, my identity is not wrapped up in that. And so it's a temptation anyway because of the flesh and all that stuff. But if you put on top of that, that's your identity, then it's going to be tough. And that's what happens to a lot of brothers. And I would say, obviously, from a Christian perspective, and I keep saying that because everybody's not Christian, but from a Christian perspective, your identity should be in Christ. But just from any other perspective, if you choose to get married, then you should do your best to live up to those vows.
Right.
You need to get your mind renewed so that you don't think I'm not being a man if I ain't out here sleeping around.
Sound like you, Tasha.
Wait, what?
No, not that part. Not that part.
Wait,
not that
what?
Part. No. Listen. Let me pull it back. Let me pull it back.
Hold on, we gotta correct this.
No. This is what I mean.
The lie detective determined that was a lie.
No, at one point we talked about that on the show. How in your mind, that was your mindset was set that, hey, all men cheat. This is something.
Oh, yeah.
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 And I think that even, once you get opportunity and you meet men who say they don't cheat, in the back of your mind, you think,
nigga, please.
Come on.
No, let me tell you, because let me tell you, Chris, what you described early on it was my experience. Like me, I grew up, athlete. All my best friends were athletes. All of us either single parent house homes or broken homes, and never really saw a successful relationship. Most of the successful relationships we saw was on television. And I did see a handful of, married brothers that I, really looked up to and actually loved their families. But the reality is, the closer I got to a lot of these married brothers, I found out that there was also infidelity going on. So the reality is, I've never, until even recent years, experienced with intimacy, like really getting to know a brother for real, that even had it as a core value to be faithful.
Right.
Because faithfulness, that got to be a straight core value. If you're not convicted on that, you just won't be faithful, because everything is tugging you in the opposite direction. Everything as men.